says, what is the best content to add to my website to help SEO? Let's just break that down really quick on your website. Your basic structure of your website is going to have, your home page. It's going to have pages probably for each of your main services that you offer. It's probably going to maybe have a gallery. It may have an About Us page, a contact page. Those are going to be your core pillar pages on your website. So you definitely want to optimize those pages. And I would recommend, in most cases, if you can afford it, to have a different page on your website for each key service that you offer so that you can optimize that page for that service. So again, we work with a lot of automotive companies. Oftentimes somebody wants to have an automotive page and they want to talk about car audio. They want to talk about remote starts, window tinting, paint protection film, and they want to put it all on their automotive page. The problem with that is then you have to try to take that one page on your website and optimize it for 4 different services: car audio, remote starts, window tinting, and paint protection film. It's very hard to do. You sort of end up with this mediocre SEO strategy that's trying to target a variety of different things. Even though you put the content on that page, you sort of end up having to compromise a little bit with the SEO to get decent SEO and try to get it for all those things. It'd be much better from a SEO optimization standpoint to have a separate page for car audio, a separate page for remote starts, a separate page for window tinting, and a separate page for paint protection film, so that all the content on that page is related to that service and is optimized for that page. So that's one way when you talk about best content on your website. If you have the ability to do so and the budget to do so, if you're building your website yourself, I would recommend separating your services so that each service has its own page. Second thing you can do is when you're adding blogs or news posts or things like that, you make sure you refer back to those pillar pages. So let's say you're writing a blog about, let's use the example I was using about window tinting. Let's say you're writing a blog about 3 key benefits of automotive window tint. Within that article, you want to be putting hyperlinks or backlinks back to your automotive window tinting service page on your website. You want to connect those two. There's a benefit from an SEO standpoint to not only be creating new content, but backlinking to the main content on the website that's referring to that service. So there's that element of it. Plus you're adding new content, which Google likes to see because they like to see new, fresh content. So you're creating more relevance to the key service page and you're adding new content. Lastly, I would say if you cover a fairly decent geographic area, let's say you're in one spot, but you service a lot of areas. One of the things we often do for our clients is we build out different service area pages that are specific to that area. So let's say you're located in one city, but there's like 4 cities around you within a 20-mile radius that you also do a lot of work for, but your website doesn't come up when you do when you do SEO result searches, or you check the search engine results for those cities, you're not coming up as well as you'd like. One of the ways you can do that is you could create a page on your website that's specific to that city and state. So you can literally create a landing page for let's say that you're in, we have a client in one particular area like Iowa City, but let's say that he also does work in Cedar Rapids. You would create a page on your website for Cedar Rapids, and you would create a page that's completely optimized for those products and services in Cedar Rapids versus just trying to make the one page cover all the different cities. Depending on how many relevant cities there are in your area, you may build out 1 or 2 extra pages on your website, or you may build out 10 extra pages on your website, depending on what you're trying to reach. The reality, though, is you want to, like I said, create a different page for each one of those. You don't necessarily even have to have those pages in the menu structure. You don't have to have those visible. Let's say when somebody visits your website, have those pages listed in your menu structure. But if they're set up for Google to crawl, that page may show up on a Google search for that particular area. And then once they're on that page, then they can navigate to the rest of your menu. So you could choose to either have them in your menu structure under like a locations tab or something like that, or you can choose to not have it in your menu structure at all and just be utilizing it so that when Google crawls your website, you have content on your website that's specific to those local areas. So those are a couple ways that again, they ask the best, content you can put on your website for SEO. All the standard rules apply. SEO, Google's very forthright about what they look for. You want to have optimized images. You want to have pages that follow the general principles of Google SEO. And, those are all, I'm not going to get into those today. Those are easily, you could Google those and they'll walk you through the process, or you could just read on different websites, different best SEO practices. But when you start talking about adding content to your website, make sure any images you put on your website are optimized. Make sure that you're tying back, you're interlinking pages on your website to tell people where what we would call the pillar pages are. Like, I would consider your service page the pillar page on your website for a particular product or service. So if I were to write an article that referred to that product or service, I would create backlinks back to that pillar page, which is going to help the SEO as well.